So on the top graph, that is charting the heart rate logged by her watch. This is from the time frame of 9:08 and 30 seconds on February 22nd, 2024 until the time 9:15 and 30 seconds. And the bottom chart is graphing the location tracked speed of her movement during that time frame.
And why did you break it down into just this basically 7-minute time frame?
Simply for visual purposes. During the entire run that was logged on her watch, it tracked a data point every second that day. So there were over 33,300 data points set and recorded and extracted. So if we put that entire data set in a chart like this to fit on this one piece of paper, it would essentially be a flat line. So we basically just select a time frame that shows some pertinent data. That way we can visually see the peaks and valleys included in the chart in the data set.
So in looking at States 270, can you tell us, first of all, what was Laken's speed and her heart rate at 9:08 a.m.?
So at 9:08, so right at the start, okay.
Yes.
It's hard to read on mine as well. So heart rate at that time was 156, so that's beats per minute for the heart rate. The speed was at, and it tracks in meters per second, to be clear. It's 2.65 is what's logged on the chart. For conversion's sake, that'll go over to 5.9 miles per hour. And for running purposes, that's a 10.2 minute mile.
What about the next data point for speed, which is 2.97? Is that faster than the previous one?
That is moving faster than the previous data point. So 2.97 meters per second. Again, comes down to up to 6.6 miles per hour, or just over a 9-minute mile.
And that particular speed, 2.97, is that the fastest that you see on her run that day?
The fastest was right at the beginning of the run. So that was around just after 9:03. You'll see that on the
States
next.
271?
Correct. Yeah.
So her fastest was 3.45?
3.45, 7.7 miles per hour, about a 7-minute 47 mile.
So going back to States 270, we were at, is that at 9:09 a.m. that it is at 2.97?
A little bit after that. I could give you the exact time if I had a minute to dig through the log, but it's shortly after 9:09.
At some point, we can continue to go along this track.
Okay.
But in States 270, did you also note at the time that Laken Riley called 911 from her phone?
Yes. That's the vertical reference lines you see. Those are reference lines that we pulled over from the phone log data. So at the time the 911 call was placed, that was at, the actual call went out at 9:11:06. That's that third vertical line you see on the graph.
That's when the call went out, but did she attempt to make it sooner than that?
Yes.
So I want to talk to you about two things. At some point in States Exhibit 270, did Laken Riley come to a complete stop?
Yes.
What was the time that she came to a complete stop?
So the speed went to 0. I think that's notated on the third. Yeah, so on the third chart we have here, 272, is that what it'd be? It comes to a complete stop. Oh, nope, sorry. That was the heart rate.
How about States 271?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I thought I had it written down. Yep, wrong chart. So yeah, 9:10:44 was the time the speed went to 0.
What time did she attempt to start making that 911 call?
So the phone logged the phone call application. So the internal phones application started to recognize an attempt to place a call at 9:10:50. That's the second vertical line.
So for record purposes, 9:10:40 to 9:10:50 is how much time?
That'd be 6 seconds.
No.
Of 40 or 44?
Right. It's 9, 10, and 44 seconds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that's the speed 0.
Okay.
And
Tell
then-
me the 911 SOS application. I want to ask you questions about that too, but tell me that time.
So the SOS, we initially saw that occur at 9, 10, and 39 seconds.
All
And
right,
that's
so-
not referenced on this chart.
Okay, so how much time differentials between those two events, from the time that she comes to a complete stop and the time that she does the SOS function?
So the SOS function was actually initially applied prior to coming to a stop.
Okay, so tell
but-
us about that.
So
I'm just looking for the time between the two.
right.
All right.
And I'm just trying to figure out exactly from what point you're talking.
All
so
right.
yeah, 9, 10, 39, we saw the SOS feature on the phone initially be activated. And by activation, the phone is just recognizing some way to initiate the SOS. There's multiple ways to do it. Long press or 2-button side press. So the side button is a volume button. You can long press that; it'll initiate. From the lock screen, you can hit the emergency call, and it'll bring up a dial pad. Then there's other features that have to be enabled that we did not see enabled on her phone. So when you see that SOS folder created at 9:10:39, we believe and we understand at that time is when we saw the SOS starting to become manipulated. Then what we see after the speed went to 0 with the phone call app intent to call, that's when the phone application is starting to recognize, hey, I need to start waking up to place a phone call. So from the 9:10:39 when SOS was activated to 9:10:50 when the phone application recognized, you're looking at 11 seconds from those 2 points. The 9:10:50 was 6 seconds after she stopped. So that was the phone call the phone being recognized that it needs to place a call occurred 6 seconds after she came to a complete stop. And then the phone call finally went out at 9:11:06, which would be, what's that? 44, 20, mental math. 44, 54, 22 seconds from the speed 0 to phone call out.
So it took the phone a minute, so well, not even
Correct.
a minute, a few
Yeah,
seconds to recognize the SOS function and actually make the call.
Right.
Do you know how that works on an iPhone to enable an SOS function to make an emergency 911 call?
Yes.
Can you show us if I hand you my iPhone on the stick?
Mhm.
Show us how that works, and you can show the cord.
All right,
How
so-
do you do that?
So from the lock screen, we would swipe, you get your unlocked dial pad,
Correct.
and then from here, and then from here you would get the emergency button at the bottom. Hit that and that will load a dial pad. From there you would dial 911 and place the call. It's one way.
Okay, what's the other way?
That's the most familiar way for most people with their phone. So from an iPhone, you can select the side button and a volume button, hold, and it brings up the emergency option from that phone, from that display.
And so for the record, did you hold the two side buttons down simultaneously?
Correct.
For that screen to appear?
For this screen to appear.
Okay.
So that's one way. Then if you let go, you'll feel it vibrate. It vibrated in my hand when it brought this screen up. You would slide to place the call. Then on the newer iPhones, hers was a 15 Pro Max, so the latest at the time, if you continue to hold, it will then start a countdown. And it'll go 8-second countdown, and then it'll start vibrating, sounding an alarm, and then place the call automatically. But you have to continue to hold after this screen displays for it to do that.
So there are a few ways that
Correct.
you could do it.
Correct.
Do you know from examining, thank you, I'll take my phone back. Do you know from examining Laken Riley's phone which method of SOS 911 calling she used?
So from what we have seen and been able to determine, it appears that the dial pad was used.
And I want to talk to you about her heart rate continuation. So
Okay.
I'm going to show you back to States Exhibit 271. Can you tell us the top graph? What does that depict?
So the top graph in red is the heart rate data. and that's from the time 9:03:42, which also coincided with the beginning of the tracked activity, being the run. And it runs to 9:33:59, and again, this is February 2nd, 2024.
When did her heart rate drop to 0?
So it went to 0 at 9:28 and 23 seconds.
And did it remain 0? And I want to show you 272. Tell us what we're looking at 272.
So 272 is the heart rate from that same beginning time, 9:03 and 42 seconds. And it's tracking all the way to 12:59 and 59 seconds, February 22nd, 24.
And at some point, we see the 0 at 9:28, like you told us.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see what looks like her heart rate going back up at 12:37.
Yes.
What,
So
does that coincide with the CPR?
that coincides with CPR and is tracked based on the body cam footage from our officer arriving on scene.
So if you look at Officer Maxwell's body cam footage, which we've already looked at,
Correct.
at 12:37 p.m., he attempts CPR, Miss Riley, is that right?
That's correct.
And that caused, you were able to see that in the Garmin watch?
Yes.
All right. Between 9:28 a.m. and when Officer Maxwell shows up at the scene, is there any movement in her heart rate?
No. The
It
heart
remains
rate-
0.
Correct.
All right. May I have one moment, Your Honor?